So kia ora koutou katoa. My name is Simon McManus. I'm here today as the Executive Officer of ITS New Zealand with Mobli and Super Shuttle for putting the SaaS into MaaS, or putting the SaaS into MaaS, depending on how you pronounce it. So Mobli and Super Shuttle, we're going to be talking today about the relationship the software platform has with their client. And thanks for joining us. Look forward to being an informative webinar today. I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot myself. So first of all, I'm just going to give you a little rundown on who ITS New Zealand are hosting. Mobli are members of our organisation. So a little bit of background on what we do. So since 2004, ITS New Zealand has kind of been leading the conversation in ITS, that's intelligent transport systems, and more recently also in looking into the future transport space. So broadening it out in looking into a lot more mobility solutions as well. And as you well know, there's lots of advancements going on in that area, and software is just one part of that. So looking forward to hearing more about that today. Little glimpse there of the broad membership base that we've got. So you have got the mobility and automotive sector there, but we also have IT systems that are running your transport networks, government members, professional consultancies, and so on. We've also got some universities on board since last year. It's a new member category, so we're looking to do more with AUT and University of Auckland in the near future. If you'd like to know more, or you'd like to support more events like this, you can get in touch with me or with Armin Gutka, who's on the board and is in charge of membership. Very quickly, a couple of upcoming events that may be of interest to you as well. So next week on Wednesday the 18th, we have Waka Kotahi introducing their brand new Hoiki Angitu, the new Waka Kotahi Innovation Program. There's a $15 million fund that's been announced this week, and so next week we'll be introducing that with some of the leaders from Waka Kotahi here in Auckland, and that's a hybrid event as well. So you can join us online if you're not in Auckland. The spaces are filling very quickly for the in-person event, so get along and register if you're keen to come along in Auckland. And later on in June, we'll have VR talking about some of the on-demand trials and solutions that they're running here in New Zealand, and some of the learnings they've got from overseas as well. And you'll see down the bottom right there, TTEC at this stage, just waiting to make some very big announcements on our major conference for the year. TTEC is our major conference, and that'll be happening later this year, 2-day conference. Stay subscribed and tuned in for more announcements on that very soon. Cool, let's crack into today's order of business. And I'm going to just start with some Q&A instructions, how you pose questions to us if you're online joining us. We've got a little bit of a live audience with us here today, which is great to see. Those of you online, you can use the Q&A within Zoom. Use the Q&A function in there. You can post your questions at any time. We'll get to them at the end. And always find it helpful if you can include your organization in the name field, and that helps give us context on how we can answer your question most effectively. And please, one question at a time so we don't get too bogged down. That would be great. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to these guys, the real people you've come here to listen to today. And on my right here, I've got Mishko, who is the Chief Strategy Officer for Mobli. And Mobli, relatively new player in New Zealand, or kind of coming out from stealth mode in a lot of respects. Mish, though, has been around for about 20 years in the New Zealand transport space, working for the likes of Waka Kotahi, public and private. So he's worked with Oricon as well, Auckland Transport, plenty of experience. I'll let Mish introduce the rest of our speakers today.
Cool, thank you, Simon. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Kia ora, everybody. I've got some people behind us as well, so sorry for staring at our backs for the presentation. But look, we're super excited to be able to share what we're doing with Super Shuttle. We'll talk a little bit about Mobli as well, but this is really about the story of Super Shuttle and how we're supporting what's a really iconic New Zealand business and the relationship that we've got with them. With Mobli, we're trying to really make transport more accessible, sustainable and fun. That's the big mission for us. And if for those of you that know Shopify and what Shopify's done for commerce, we're trying to do exactly the same, but for transport. So we've got a platform where if you're an operator, small, medium, large, we're able to come in and support your business so you can concentrate on what it is that you're doing. Cool. So when we look at Super Shuttle, Mobli's been around for since 2019, so only a few years old. Made some big strides. I like the stealth mode, Simon, that you talked about. So made some big strides in that time. And one of the reasons we've been able to do that is relationships with the likes of Super Shuttle. And we've got Graham in here, who's one of the executive directors at Super Shuttle, who'll be able to capture from his perspective what we've been doing. So it's really important that we get the view from those that are actually using any software that you do around how it's working and what the opportunities are with that. But the relationship is super important to us. And from our journey from 2019 to now, we've been able to trial, test, do a lot of things for Super Shuttle, which has taken us to where we're at today. So you're going to hear not too much from me, but more from these guys over the next 45 minutes or so. So introduce Graham, who's the executive director at Super Shuttle. So really good to have you here, Graham. And it's been nice to be able to work with you alongside Mobli over the last few years. We've got Duncan Che, who's our head of product. He's been instrumental in really pushing the last part of the Super Shuttle stuff through that we've been doing recently. So great to have Duncan on board. And to add a little spice into what we're doing as well, we've got James Jackson, our Chief Revenue Officer over from the UK. James has got a significant background in the UK market, worked for the Department of Transport, on the board of the MaaS Alliance. So it's great to have him in New Zealand. Hopefully you're enjoying Auckland for your last couple of days before you head back, James.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I'm going to kick straight into Super Shuttle and their story, because that's what we're here to listen to. We'll get a sprinkling of Mobli as we go through, but really want to hear from Graham around Super Shuttle and the situation now and the opportunity ahead. So Graham, over to you.
Thanks, Mish. And Simon, your organisation, thanks for having us along. It's kind of new to be talking about something that's been gestating for so long for us, but nice to be able to have the opportunity to do that. So maybe if I just talk a little bit about the Super Shuttle What Next story. We've been around for a while. For me personally, been involved in the business since 1998, and it's been quite a journey, taking it really from what was a relatively unsophisticated in terms of its IT support systems business to its current state, and obviously looking forward. So what I'm going to just capture today is just a brief chat about what is Super Shuttle as it sits today, and indeed to an extent how we've got here. I want to have a look at what our key success drivers are, just by way of providing some context for the discussion that then is really what we want to be and how we want to effectively work with Mobli and are working with Mobli to chart the future, because ITC is so important to us. So recapping, what is Super Shuttle? As I say, I've been involved since 1998. My background previously was military aviation, and I was lucky enough in that particular sphere to be exposed to some of some leading edge information technology as it pertained to the job I was doing at the time as a pilot. And it was quite innovative stuff. And I really, in those early days, got a feel for how, particularly in transport, we could leverage software as a service as a way of moving forward. And we commenced that journey back in 1998, my business partner and I. So what is Super Shuttle now? Well, it's New Zealand's only nationwide shared ride service. Let's not confuse that with ride share. I'll let you draw your own conclusions there, but shared ride, meaning that we are picking up in general people that are not known to each other. They're sharing the ride, and we're carrying, if you like, separate bookings on our plant. We offer a fixed price door-to-door on-demand service, so it's not scheduled like a bus. It's primarily airport transfers or transport hub transfers, so it's deeply embedded in tourism as a if you like, a market sector, although we do conduct other transfers, and we're looking to grow that part of the business. In terms of our market sectors, really the main ones would be inbound tourism, the general travelling public in New Zealand, which is domestic travel, obviously, and we also work with corporate and industry partners, airlines, government, private, corporate. So quite a solid base in terms of different industry connection. We think that the product provides a broad appeal to the travelling public, It's not everything to everybody, but it certainly provides a very important part of that airport transfer and indeed tourism transfer service offering. What for us are our success drivers? Well, obviously we need plant. It's pretty straightforward. It's a Toyota Hiace high top. It's been a great workhorse for us. We're still looking for new and innovative EV, maybe hydrogen powered options, but they are not in market yet at a level that we can reliably employ, but that's the main workhorse. And we tow a trailer, the luggage trailer. It's no more scientific or exciting than that, but it does the job extremely well. The services that we offer primarily are shared services, which is where individuals that are travelling in a way that's geographically and time compatible can share the ride, and or the exclusive use of the vehicle and trailer. Pretty easy to understand. For us, the key understanding in terms of being able to promote those services to the wider travelling public, and when you think about it, we could just as easily pre-COVID be travelling with somebody in the van that has come from Manchester in England, Mumbai in India, somewhere in Southeast Asia, or indeed someone who's traveling from a domestic location in New Zealand. So how does a marketer get their head around engaging with those different, if you like, widely spread geographical locations and or positions really? And for us, the key drivers are, how does somebody hear about us? How do they book us? And then how they pay us? And in all respects, those things are, believe it or not, if you've got an existing service, which we have, they are critical ways that we can engage with customers. And it was very important when we were thinking what next for our technology platform, that we were able to really make sure that we kept those things top of mind. In other words, how do they hear about us? These days, obviously, there is social media, there are digital channels that are way different than they used to be 8 years ago, even 8 months ago in some cases. So we have to be really up with how that particular part of our business works. How do they book us? Obviously, it's the same. These are constantly changing channels. And then how do they pay us? What's the easiest way these days? Will it be in cryptocurrency soon? How do we manage that challenge? So some key things there that we need to be ahead of. Then there's the sort of more the operational side of the success driver. How do you deliver shared ride? It's a dynamic business. Unlike a single ride in a single vehicle or a scheduled service, it's very dynamic, particularly if you're offering on-demand shared ride. And you need to have good, strong operational IT systems to be able to assist your ops crew and your ops team to deliver that. And that's really the key discussion piece here, and obviously how the relationship has been developing with Mobli, and it's been a good one. The other thing you need for share ride as a critical success driver is you need critical mass. It's no point offering a really cool door-to-door price when there's only one person on your vehicle. So you need that critical mass in terms of who you're servicing, and we have that. So that's a little bit about what we've been, what do we want to be, and again, just placing some context around it. 1998 was when we purchased the business, my business partner and I, and really since then, and it was starting prior, we all know that, but really we have lived through, all of us, those of us who are old enough, a technological revolution. And you only have to look back at when search engines became all powerful, when disruptors actually came to market. It's all happened really in the last quarter of a century, and it's been an extremely dynamic time. We've kept pace with that to a degree with our existing systems. We went down the pathway of having existing in-house systems that we built, and it helped us deliver a shared ride service and helped our operations team. But really what we realized about 5 years ago was that we needed to understand and organize our data better with a view to leveraging machine learning, other tools that were, so to speak, in the cloud. We wanted to be able to do things like predict demand, to pre-position fleet based on what we knew demand was going to be with inputs. And we needed to improve our service at a number of levels, leveraging the ability for ITC and intelligent systems to deliver. That was then going to enable us to better connect with the client, and to do that we needed to understand how we could leverage new and existing promotional channels better. We wanted to connect the capacity we had in our fleet more dynamically with booking demand. In other words, make our seats and coaches available virtually on a I can see it, I want it because it's coming past my house. And we wanted that customer experience to be much easier than we had it existing. And overall, in a wider, I guess, global sense, we wanted to be able to integrate better with channel connections, which were existing airline and industry connections. So quite a wide brief, quite a few things to leverage. And at the end of the day, achieving that and also reducing our carbon emission footprint was a key part of where we wanted to go with our IT system and partner, in this case Mobli. So there you go, why Mobli? And perhaps I can bring Duncan in to have a bit of a to and from here. He'll keep me on the straight and narrow, but it's not hard. Just at the outset, one of the things we really liked about the Mobli team was firstly their understanding and their openness with respect to kind of getting their head around a strange little business that was shared ride on demand, door to door. We're not your average transport company. We're not a bus company. We're not an airline or a taxi company for that matter. We have some quite interesting nuances and parts to our business that take a bit of understanding, and Mobli team really got their head around that very early on. And indeed, when we were talking about where we could go, you could see immediately that they were actually thinking about stuff that we hadn't considered, and we really liked that relationship where we could interchange and bounce ideas off each other and be very productive in terms of scoping what was available and what was on offer. But in terms of maybe just quantifying down what this project is doing for us, I guess the first part was the streamlining of our operational data. We get a lot of information and have had historically a lot of information that we have in ones and zeros stored, but it wasn't configured for us to be able to leverage the information that was there. So how do we do that with respect to being able to shift our pricing into a more dynamic pricing model that allowed us to extract value when we could, but also offer really competitive rates when necessary to maintain market share and to best optimize the commercial side of the business based on the dynamics of what we were doing. How could we learn from that in terms of shifting our fleet around or making sure that it was pre-positioned to best meet anticipated demand? All this coming from data that we've got there, additional feeds, airline feeds, transport operator feeds, and information that exists out there that we needed to plug into our IT systems. We didn't have that, so we were kind of operating on feel rather than fact. So,
but on that point, I mean, when we first started this project working with Super Shuttle, what was really interesting is I think the first thing ever happened in this project was Graham giving me a one-on-one course for about 6 hours, and I was amazed by two things because I thought Super Shuttle was rather straightforward business, and that's because I didn't know about the business too well. But the second thing is that Graham went on 6 hours like in a single shot, so no break in between. The meeting was on 9 a.m. and I think I left the room around 3 p.m. So what I really found is that there's so many opportunities and so many things that this business could evolve to. And that really opened the door for us to really collaborate and actually find out more opportunities to how we could also improve our business, which is Mobli. We want to be the Shopify of mobility. And we thought actually we could learn a lot from Super Shuttle in terms of how they operate their business now and how does the actual data look like in terms of the customers, the passengers and clients and all that kind of stuff. So we took a lot of advantage and learning from Super Shuttle to get this project moving on so far. And just about touching the data, I think Graham touched on it slightly, but when we talk about dynamic optimized pricing and predicting where the demand will be coming from, I think I could arguably say that is actually the next gen for every mobility company out there. It's not just for Super Shuttle. Everybody wants to know about where is the next ride going to happen, right? And surprisingly, Super Shuttle has all that data kind of half sleeping at the moment, but exactly. I think that's where the opportunity lies. And it was really an enjoyable journey so far, that learning from each other and, you know, progressing the project at where it is at the moment.
You're right, Duncan. And, you know, it's kept me awake at nights knowing that we are sleeping on that wealth of information and we're not leveraging it because it's there. We just didn't know how to do that. We knew it was a possibility, but again, you know, talking with the Mobli team, as Duncan's rightly said, we started to really see those possibilities open up. And I mean, look, I can go through the various benefits that are there. Yeah, we can configure it to regions. There are different parts of New Zealand that behave differently. Well, that's the lovely thing about this system. It enables us to fit, you know, a different environment that might be Christchurch versus Wellington versus a regional centre like Napier Hastings, for example. So, they're quite different in terms of the way they work. Their dynamics are different. And if you've got a team operating analog, you know, as in crunching the numbers and trying to interpret the data, way better if you can have a machine learning type environment that, looking back on how you've delivered on what you thought you were going to, you're actually constantly improving, and it provides for some real benefits. And ultimately for us, really what we want to get to, and we're making good strides, is to almost completely automate the fleet's operation in a routine way. So still intervening when necessary, because things do go wrong, unexpected things, but really shifting the focus of our expert ops team from the routine and the mundane, which they do okay, and we will do excellently, to the more exceptional events that may occur from time to time.
And we took the very, very small baby step of the ideal world that we call the automated fleet control. I think that if you want to talk a little bit about the automated run makeup that we've built.
Yeah. So you know, previously what we've done in the Super Shuttle game is to really, in an analog way, match geographical pickups with time on target, which in this case it's a military term. I'm sorry, I'll just come back to my normal role. But certainly an aeroplane leaves at a certain time, and we've got to get people to an airport on time, for example. And so, and the other thing that we don't want to be doing is have an extended ride with clients where they're traveling all over town before they're getting to the airport, because that will produce an unusually long pickup time. So really what we've got to do is match geographical and time constraints. And if you can imagine you're doing that with, you know, well in excess of 100 vehicles at any one time, it's a lot to get your head around as a single person. If we can do that using smart systems, we can make up the best possible geographical run based on the existing environmental conditions, traffic, weather, demand. That's something that a computer can do way better, a digital outcome, particularly if you're learning from it.
But having said that, though, a machine has to learn from something.
It does.
Right? So, I mean, when I was doing these user research and actually getting into the Super Shuttle office and learning about how the dispatchers, the operators actually work, you'll be amazed. If you ever have a chance to pop into Super Shuttle office, there's going to be this person sitting in the middle of the ops room, literally manually putting all these different trips and combining them together because they logically make sense to be one ride. And that's currently being done by a person or a few people. And I was looking at that, I thought, oh, that's air traffic control.
It is.
In terms of a human being. And that was so amazing. And that's actually a huge lesson for Mobli as well, because if we want to train our machine to be ultimately as smart as a human being, I think there's no a better place to learn about that as a Super Shuttle. So I think that's where the machine meets the real world, and how manual or analog operations could teach the machine to do better. And eventually the machine could help that operations to operate better, but that needs to come from a real operation, a real business.
Yes. And the nice thing about this project is being that it's set up to allow that intervention. And, you know, we know that Mobli machine learning is going to learn from that intervention, go why, and there'll be reasons that we placing in there that enable us to constantly iterate towards a better and more consistent process. But yes, you're right, Duncan. It's a reasonably busy gig, and certainly I'm harnessing the digital capabilities of the system. Absolutely brilliant.
And then looking back to our journey so far, your confidence of
getting very confident. It's fantastic seeing going through the automation that we've been testing to date. It's fantastic. So on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. So that's kind of just, and I'm going to keep going. No doubt there'll be some questions, I guess, maybe. Certainly, moving on from the operational part of the business, we also have to keep in mind that we want to maintain a competitive advantage out there. We have to take into account the new communication channels that exist. It's not a world where there's only Google search. There's a whole bunch of ways that people engage with and booking and testing different products. We need to be up there with that. The key part for us is this omni-channel booking engagement process where we can bring all of those channels which we have, whether it's telephone, industry partners, direct API bookings, and we can bring them into one channel and manage that booking demand in a way that's really meaningful and easy and low touch for our clients. We want to, on the other side, also be part of public transport networks. We're not very good at that at the moment. We rely often on airports and airlines to feed clients to us. Well, why couldn't it be an Auckland Transport or an NZTA type engagement platform, whatever that looks like, such that people can get a shared door-to-door service that's at a great fixed price at the time? Why can't we make those, if you like, those seats available to the travelling public? So it's really exciting that that additional public transport in a wider sense outside of airport operations.
And I think that kind of aligns with the strategic goal that you want to place Super Shuttle in the near future. It's not just a one sole trip from A to B, but it could be part of a bigger journey or a wider trip. So it doesn't have to be start and end with Super Shuttle, but you could also be a connector between different things, as you already do for airports and train services. But getting these integration in place will actually open up more doors to grab that opportunity if that's available. Right? Yeah,
it is, Duncan. And that sort of leads to the last point, which is really the ability to develop more operationally complex products. So, maybe you take a door-to-door shared ride across the city and jump on a scooter to go somewhere. There's an endless number of prospects available to us, given the change of thinking and indeed availability for public transport options these days.
Yeah, you might open up a trailer and there could be a scooter.
There could well be, yeah. We'll carry on a scooter, jump on that, and away you go. Yeah,
anything is possible.
Yeah, we'll gather up a few scooters, and yeah, absolutely. So some really exciting stuff there, and I think the intent speaks for itself, and people will not find it difficult to see the opportunities that exist there. I guess at the end of the day too, it really is about that customer experience. Without customers that are enjoying the service for whatever reason, you're kind of losing sight of why you're here. So really, let's focus just, I guess, to finish this initial discussion. What about the customer experience? Well, we've talked about the omni-channel booking. It'd be a lovely world where, regardless virtually of any major social platform, you can actually engage with Super Shuttle to meet the needs that you have at the time for your transport. We like the fact that with given environmental inputs, whether it's traffic conditions, as I say, contingencies that come up through road conditions, or indeed predicted demand, whether it's passengers coming into an airport or another port, we like the idea that we can offer trim down travel times based on predicted demand and with all of those feeds present. And you can probably, and I would imagine the audience would understand that it really gets to be too much when you add all those inputs for a single head to get their brain power. Maybe some can do it, but it's beyond me. And certainly if we can machine learn from it and see patterns and opportunities to understand better, then obviously that's what we want to do and deliver to the customer a better transport time, even though it's shared. there's opportunities for us. We've got a much better CRM system with the Mobli integration, and we want to be able to connect with clients in a way that is, again, lower touch, whether it's through automated messaging. Again, regardless of the platform they're using, then that's really important for us in a proactive way. I'm not sure what you've got to add there, if there's anything, Duncan, but
no, but I really enjoyed the discussions that we had around the pre-post ride, because as you already know, when you talk about mobility, it's not just about jumping onto something that has wheels and moving from A to B. It's about the experience, and I think the whole thing is now more focused. It's not about moving you from A to B. How did you feel? How was the experience? That's actually the trigger that brings the customer back and the passenger back. So Graham was the very few executives that I personally very admire, had that view on the pre and post ride. So that was really interesting. And I think we managed to do some really good collaboration, understanding what is a pre and post ride. And obviously
100%.
the omni-channel thing is really important, because if you step into any airport, especially Auckland Airport, you'll see the Super Shuttle advert inside the airport as well. But what if you knew about that before you took on that flight to New Zealand? That would actually save you a lot of money and blah, blah. So all that kind of, how do we reach the customers? How do they book a ride? How do we make the payment? All that stuff kind of filtered into what we've been doing here so far. So yeah, it was an absolute pleasure.
Yep.
So far.
And I think during the ride, there was a couple of other things that we wanted to make sure that we, I guess, added value in the sense that, yes, we talk about carbon neutrality, but Mobli gave us an end-to-end opportunity to really nail down what it was costing for a journey in terms of carbon emissions, and using the Toitu business partner, we've got that locked down, and we feel really confident that we are able to truly offer an enduring carbon neutral solution. And obviously with the advent of a suitable EV / hydrogen / more sustainable platform, then we're going to be really confident that it's a very clean service that we're offering. I mean, as it sits, we think pre-COVID something like 500,000 car journeys off the road. That's using the existing shared ride method of transport. So if we can be even less in terms of our footprint and emissions, it's a great story, I think, for our customers. And hopefully they'll feel good about that. And it's going to be at no cost to our customers. So really excited about that. Rider reward and loyalty programs, again, harnessing that better understanding of who our clients are, how often they're using us. We're excited about that. And of course, Mobli and us, if that's the right English, we have a way and opportunities to interact with our clients in a real, if you like, customer persona way, where we can actually tailor some of the in-vehicle content during their rides. That's way more meaningful than just a bulletin board, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about those opportunities.
I just wanted to kind of quickly touch on the omni-channel approach, and can you share a little bit about the current telephone and all the booking systems that you have in-house, and what's the kind of the challenge that you're facing at the moment? So we could have a little bit more kind of I think because that omni-channel and pre-post ride is something really attractive. So
Sure. Yeah, probably most of our, when you've got a number of different channels by which the traveling public can connect with your business. So I'm thinking mainly about how they engage to book a service. You need to be able to bring together, for us, it's a lot of our offshore tourism agents use emails. So there's a lot of email traffic into our business. We get some people that ring us, and then we've got about 4 or 5 different digital channels that industry partners use. So we're talking there about travel agents, local airlines, and indeed hotel and accommodation sector partners. So all of these reservations, bookings are coming in, and they all come through siloed channels. And so it's really hard to manage and prioritize and actually get a feel for what's important and what's not at any given time. Obviously, you want to answer the phone, to put it bluntly, of course you do, but there may be more pressing stuff that's actually coming through another channel. So bringing them all together in the system that we have with the Mobli platform gives us the ability to actually see them all together. And it's a real capability that brings them, as I say, into one channel, and we can manage from woe to go, everything from initial booking right through to, in the industry, we say MAX, moves, additions, and cancellations. You need to be able to track, audit all of those things so that you have a really good understanding of how the booking process is working. Now, that could equally these days be a number of the social media channels. A lot of people would like, but prefer to be able to book using an app of some sort, and I won't go into those various opportunities. You've all used them, but what a lovely thing to be able to just have a chat with a Super Shuttle booking process, via your preferred app. So much more to add to that omni-channel picture. Again, very exciting. I think that is us.
Hey, that's amazing, guys. Really, yeah, I mean, I started to really understand the journey that you've been on. There's some real complexities to your business, Graham.
Yeah, also,
and I can see how that would be exciting for the Mobli team to get stuck into. It sounds like you've got some interesting solutions. I can't wait to actually jump on Super Shuttle and see how it's changed since the last time I used it. And thank you, COVID. Moving on, we can start traveling again. Look forward to that soon.
Yeah, thank you, Simon.
James, do you want to jump in at all and talk about the UK before we go to Q&A, or do you want to just wait to see what questions come through?
Yeah, I mean, I think the audience, obviously, via Google and other streams, you could be well clued up on the UK, but I just think I could give an overview of really saying that what Super Shuttle's doing here is really progressive. But in the UK and Europe, we're seeing lots of other small companies and big companies jumping on the back of this ambition for using data and technology to make better decisions. I think, Graham pointed out the fact that the last 20 years, but really the last 10 years has been a real driver of disruption in the industry, constantly changing business models, high capital businesses looking to get more value, drive costs down and improve passenger experience. And they're all needing to invest in software. Data is how you drive any business now, whether you're in transport, commerce, retail. So I think, this is the beginning of the next wave of what we refer to as mobility as a service. And I think the title you came up with, Simon, about putting, software as a service into mobility as a service is really where we should be focusing. We should move less about this strategic picture of smart cities, decarbonising our transport system, which of course we have to do from a government or policy perspective, but we've got to get it right at the individual business level. We've got to make it work commercially, and we've got to always focus on the customer. So I think all of that came through really, really well from what you were saying. And yeah, it'd be great to get into some questions as they come through.
Cool. Shall I start with a tricky one or two?
Yeah, go for it.
So let's say you're talking to a new client and they've got some problems to solve, but the obvious barriers with any kind of software, we take it outside of transport, adopting new software, the biggest challenges to overcome there are how much is this going to cost? And how do I get my staff to upskill and kind of overcome this new platform they're going to have to deal with? So who wants to take on that one?
Our pricing is confidential, so probably.
Listen, I'm not telling you to talk about, because I think that's probably dependent on who the client is. But, how do you overcome that kind of psychological barrier, if you like? Because they've got a problem to solve. They need to spend some money to do it to improve their business. Yeah.
I think as a head of product delivery at Mobli, I think what I want to really stress about is that actually the technology is not always ready to go. We have to learn from the business to make it perfect. So from a software company side, you have to, I always like to have this mentality that I'm not purely giving or selling my technology. I'm actually improving by selling it. So that's the thing that really made this project so far with Super Shuttle even greater. And based on that, maybe James could talk more about the actual numbers of the pricing and all that stuff. But I think as a whole, Mobli, we don't want to lock people in. So we think it's not a good approach or a good feeling to say, you need this technology and this is the check that we need. That's the no approach that we want to take. What we want to take is that we want to say, okay, we want to have more like a pay-as-you-go kind of system. And that's why we are a SaaS company. So we want to, rather than having a big sign this check and we will deliver X for you, rather than doing that, we want to form some sort of a partnership. We're like a friendship. So this is that you will pay as you go, but we will deliver you some piece of technology, but you will also give us some very useful insights so we could grow with you as well.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, we don't ask for a bulk check. Am I right?
Yeah.
Maybe I promised too much. But we take a substantial, the minimum amount that we need to keep our company alive. But our mindset is always, we will take the minimum as we need, but we will grow this business with you guys. So I hope that's our message, and I hope that kind of helps more business out there who are thinking about, oh, is it? I think it's time to change our technology or blah, 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 but do I have the right money? I think maybe this message will be helpful for them to understand our approach.
Our vision in Mobli is accessibility, sustainability, and fun. And I think that works really well on lots of levels. And we'll talk about what fun means maybe in a minute around our Mobli rewards products and user experience, passenger experience. But this accessibility word, of course, works at the policy level about helping people travel that don't have access to transport, these transport or mobility deserts in our cities and rural areas where there's all this suppressed demand and we need to get the right vehicles, the seats and wheels to the people for the right price. That's accessibility, but accessibility for Mobli also means making software accessible to businesses big and small. It shouldn't just be the big companies that can invest in these solutions, because these solutions don't have to be expensive. And in many ways we're disrupting, the market in terms of how we offer modular products to solve point solutions and point problems in a business. And as we work with different companies across different sectors and different modes and even different territories around the world, the learnings like Duncan and Graham have talked about get sort of recirculated, if you like, in our ecosystem. So you're always getting the latest updates. And most importantly, your investment risk in the software is easily turn on and offable. It just means as you start to pivot and do your innovation in your business model, the things that work, you can dial up, and the things that don't work, you can dial down. So we move with you on your journey to make sure ultimately you move with the market and you stay competitive. And I think that's really important.
And the key point there is that you could also decide, scroll up to use more money, but you could always scroll back down to spend less money, depending on how your business. And that's the flexibility, the accessibility that we all share within Mobli. So I hope that.
Yeah, I want to speak from a purchasing point of view. It's not cheap, but it's cost effective. And I think you have to be able to, as a business owner, say to yourself, well, if we don't move in this direction, what then? And I just don't think you can, and the right partnership, whether it's Mobli or any other software as a service company, you've got to have that fit where you trust them, and that comes down to understanding what the individual needs of the two organizations are and being able to communicate that in a way that's really effective and timely and that delivers on your key points. It may not be everything, but it's the key points that do make that difference in your business, that do take you along that journey where you are actually achieving some really cool things that are enhancing your business model. So it's pretty straightforward, but you've got to feel comfortable with it. That's a purchaser's point. You've got to feel comfortable with the relationship.
Yeah, well, but plenty of depth of experience around us here as well.
Yeah.
So understanding goes both ways, I'm sure.
Yes.
We've got a question in here that's come in that taps into the accessibility bit, and I think hopefully you can answer this one, Graham. Mahmood Hikmet is from Omeo. You may know them, the autonomous shuttle developers here in New Zealand. His question is about apps. How you, maybe not all of your clients are still comfortable using apps. So I think you talked a little bit about omnichannel. You're still going to keep using all those different channels to drive. And obviously in your case, you've got travel agents and things like that as well. So it's not only about the app, but it's far beyond in terms of the operations.
So is the question, what is the relevance in today's app world?
Yeah.
What is the app relevance?
Sure.
Well, I think if you're Uber, to quote a competitor, competitors know, your app's really important. But what we want to be is almost, and we do have an app, and we will continue with an app. That's the short answer to the question. But I see a world where you're better to be able to dial up, as you can in London, your Google travel map, and it gives you the option that there's a bus coming by, but you got to walk 250 meters up there, that you can get a black taxi, you can get an Uber, or you can get a Super Shuttle shared ride. And all you have to do is walk 50 meters that way. So in other words, using platforms that are non-transport focused, and obviously Google Maps is in that sense, but is it Facebook? Hey, Super Shuttle, I need to get to the airport now, or I need to go here now. What's available? Might be in 20 minutes time that we can go, could be in 2 minutes. But if we don't have that real-time accessibility of the seats that are available, so I guess that's the long answer to the short question, which is I think apps are relevant, but there are lots of other as easily used channels that, a la web, HTML.
And then, visibility is everything, isn't it, in your sort of business? So
100%.
you can only be visible and you can only integrate with these either super apps like WeChat or a city authority app, or any channel,
AT.
The channels list is endless, but they all require data and the transfer and the use of software to communicate. So if you're not in this game of digitalizing your business, you're really closing down your channel marketing.
Yes.
And I just to add on that, I think when we say omni-channel, I don't think it's just about integrating with the shiny and the future, more young people with communication. I think it's all also about how can we manage the existing channels, but also put the new channels in the mix. So it doesn't mean that we're walking away. It doesn't mean we're hiring a few more people to manage this new channel. It's about how can we provide a seamless experience end-to-end to the customer. So when we talk about omnichannel, especially for Super Shuttle, we're very focusing on, we're not dropping any channels. We are keeping them, but we are just making it more manageable by using the power of mobile technology.
If anything, that's what makes this story quite fascinating, because you do have these, these legacy channels that you've got to keep going, because that's a key source of business. So you can't be just going flashy, hey, we'll just do an app.
Try integrating with the GDS. I mean, these things were built back in the mid 70s. I mean, most I was born then. Sorry, but maybe a lot of you weren't. And these are old legacy systems that have maybe onto their fourth or fifth owners, and it could be a finance company, for goodness sake, that owns them. So connecting into them sometimes can be in one case for us, a 12-year project. So it's not,
Should we jump to some other questions? We've got a couple more here. Talking about integration, we were talking about, integrating with, how does your journey, maybe matching it up with scooter trips or public transport. So here's a question from Terry Graham. How do you enable better integration with public transport, other mobility providers, to encourage more multimodal trips via mechanisms for data sharing and fair integration? I don't know if that's taking it too far, but
I've got it. I think that's probably the answer. If you don't have your data organized and in a way that you can serve it to these industry channels, and I'll use Auckland Transport, for example. I mean, I think there's 500,000 people have the Auckland Transport app on their phone. We'd love to have Super Shuttle there, but unless we've got the data ready to go, unless we've got those seats available in a real-time way that AT needs, you can't even have a conversation with AT. So that's the first point. Get your data organized, and this is a key part of this project, such that it can be consumed by those channels. Air New Zealand will want to know, if they're booking a Super Shuttle, that shuttle can be there within 5 minutes. Well, it's already started on its journey. So you're going to have to have real time, and there's little gates there that, and I won't get too far into it, but where you have to say, are you or aren't you, because it's coming. It's unlike a scheduled service where you go, well, it's leaving in half an hour, I can make a cup of tea and have a sandwich. No, it might be 2 minutes away, in which case, are you packed and ready?
I think, sorry.
No, go, but that's the first point. Get your data right.
Yeah, and Terry makes a great point. I mean, this question of, does it make commercial sense to integrate, cooperate with other transport operators. You can spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on consultants and models to try and work out, am I cannibalizing my own market, or am I going to grow my market? Where's my market share? What's really interesting, particularly in Europe and UK, is the government's really got behind future mobility zones or future transport zones, these living labs where they invest in software, they allow companies to use it. And the only way you can really answer these questions of should I work with someone or should I not work with someone, and in which territories, for which demographics, which prices, which routes, which times of day, all of this is decisions that you can only answer through testing and learning. So, we're really interested in helping cities, answer some of these questions, because these questions need to be answered, and this is the only way we can create this seamless transport system that really works. We don't want big vehicles running empty in the off-peak. We don't want congestion. So if we don't want these things, what we're asking for is for the market and the private sector operators to change how they work, to move out of their individual business model and their competitive business model, but find out who and when and where they should collaborate. And sort of this co-opetition is going to be a big theme coming through the market, just like the sharing economy has been a big theme. This collaboration between different businesses is going to be how we get ourselves out of gridlock.
Mm.
And just I was looking at Terry's question, and the last sentence is about, would public transport providers see the value in this, or do they view us as a rival? So I think this is a really interesting question, and I actually think about this a lot. But I think my personal view is that a person or a company could only plan so much, right? You can't predict what's going to happen. Maybe you can, sorry, but I can't. I can't predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years. So before we go and try to analyze or figure out whether this is going to rival or not, I think we need to have some safe space for an IT company like us to partnership with an existing company like Super Shuttle and test and trial. Because I think the ultimate decision whether this is success or not doesn't actually come from the government or from the business. It actually comes from the passengers, the riders. So we need to feed them enough new things or new trials so they have the option to choose whether this is working for them or not. So I think the answer is I don't know, but we have to keep on trying, because otherwise we would never know whether this is a rival or not. So
Yeah, I think to just echo James's comments, I mean, one of the key benefits that we've had with the Mobli team is that they're well connected with offshore initiatives, and we were talking to a large player in the transport game out of Europe in a trial they were running in a European city, and it was really interesting the actual common questions and challenges that they were facing. Slightly different, but regulatory challenges where so a lot of the regulatory thinking was around existing transport modes, even just down to certification of vehicles. If you're going to go EV, what's the single wheel loading? Is that going to change with all those heavy batteries in the vehicle, for example? And do you have to offload passengers to get more electric in your vehicle? So those sorts of things. Challenges around just how do you present the empty seats to the traveling public? What are your channels? All of those things. And then how do you bring it all together in a model that's cost effective? Yep. That doesn't cost you $50 to actually do, what should only be a $3 trip, So yes, there are challenges, but I think to the initial point, you've just got to step out, get yourself organised, and be configured.
So we're really serious about making a difference around emissions. I mean, you could go on Queen Street. We've got stuff that's running around half empty. I mean, that's not efficient. I mean, it's there. We're running services, but we can do so much better. I mean, to do better, you need to test, trial, do different things. So if we can maximise the use of a super shuttle or other types of transport, that's going to help us when it comes to reducing emissions. So we do need to push ourselves, and that's a collective thing. It's not competition. We're trying to move people around. People are trying to get from A to B. We're trying to reduce emissions. So we don't see anything as rivals. It's how do we do that together to make the best of what we've got.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The final question that I've got here, and it might be our final question for tonight, I think, if we haven't got to your question. We'll get in touch with you afterwards. But we've got final question here that I'm going to pose to you, and this I think is probably for you, Graham, is how are you using your Mobli platform to smooth things with your partners? So your agents who bring bookings to you, is there information going out to them from your new platform as well?
Not proactively at the moment,
Sure.
because we haven't leveraged the full opportunities of that CRM system, but it's going to be way better. Why? How do I know that? Well, for a start, we will see more in the data. We are seeing more in the data structure in terms of that traditional CRM model. We weren't particularly good at that. We were kind of the view that, look, we're the shared ride operator to the airports. Come and get it, whereas we've got to be a little more proactive now. We've got to really make sure that we're understanding those sectors better. But I think in terms of opportunities that exist to engage, it's certainly around being able to, one thing about particularly industry partners like airlines and hotels and travel agents and so on and so forth, they are very results-driven organisations. That the shorter the time they can spend transacting, the better it is for them. So if we can drop our turnaround times by 30-40% by having more efficient systems, it's a win straight away. Totally, yeah. So that's a key feature. And also we want to be able to be a little more flexible with respect to the product we're offering. So there's a lot of, say, for example, government departments in Wellington, which is a Y-shaped city, for example, where sometimes the way we price our shared ride product isn't that cost effective, as much as I hate to say that. But there's other stuff that we can do to make it very cost effective. And what we've got to do is make sure that the booking channels we use can reflect that product flexibility. And again, that's what the Mobli platform is able to do, because it's quickly and easily configurable. And if we need to shift that, that's an example of how we can shift a little nuance around a given shared ride product, make it really cost effective, but still, commercially viable to deliver.
Yeah. I'd say the decarbonisation aspect as well, with so many of your partners would be, targeting that themselves. And so to know that they're working with an organisation that can be pretty transparent with how performance is going will be really valuable.
And look, there's a real industry surgeon, I don't want to talk too much, but, airports particularly are going out to their second and third tier providers and saying, look, give us your data. And we have to know that stuff. And there's a bit of gathering to do to know just how much you're emitting per customer journey. But we're going to be able to do that with Mobli. We are doing it. So
excellent.
It is good.
Well, we'll all win from that. Listen, guys, it's been a fascinating chat this evening. I hope the audience at home has loved it, and we'll be having a recording. Hi, folks. You still here? Great stuff. Excellent. The recording will go live very shortly. If you didn't get your question answered today, get in touch with me. The team here at Mobli will be happy to answer. Graham, thank you very much for your time, sharing your story today.
Thank you.
Been really appreciate it. Ka kite.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cool. Yeah.